Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Hello and welcome back. It is week four. Week four, hopefully, and fingers crossed, it'll be the final week on both the Facehugger and the Travel Pod. Getting a late start today because I voted early today. North Carolina has early voting. I took advantage of voting early. I always say about voting, you don't piss and moan if you don't vote. It's because you can't. This is my ticket to whine about government. You got to stay involved. Stay active, stay aware, know what's going on. I'm not going to do this whole, I don't care what side you're on, because I don't care what side you're on. Active participation is the best disinfectant. So, let's get on to it. Over the weekend, I picked up some batteries finally for the conduit here that goes on the Facehugger base. And after, I have to trim down these fibers, but hopefully now you can see what's going to go on with this. It's going to lay on the base and it's going to look like a sparking, horrible piece of broken conduit, or fiber optic conduit. So that's job one. Job two is to finish the wiring on this little popsicle and get it, basically all that's left that needs to be done is some tiny touch-up paints. I'm going to see if I can find some, I'm in the dark again, sorry, to touch up paints. I can look around to see if I've got any scrap decals that I can sparsely put on this thing to give it a little bit more oomph. And then it's done. It's not going to take too much. Wiring is going to be the big deal because I got to chase the wiring down and attach the board and all that. So we're darn close. If I finish this midweek, then I'll just put up the video early and start something else. I've got plenty of stuff on the horizon, and I will only give you a tease of this, but maybe not even this right away. You can hear printers humming in the background. Something is always afoot. Something is always afoot at the old print farm. So, without much further ado, let's get cracking. Sorry, Wayne. I stole your line. It's become habitual. Okay, I just spent a few minutes here working up a stencil for the optical pipe. I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup here, you'll forgive me, but it's got a number on it. It's got a Weyland-Yutani logo on it because those guys, they branded everything. So we're just going to see how it looks when I peel everything off. And then I'm going to maybe rust up this pipe a little bit. That'll give me a chance to use up the rusting stuff that I didn't really think was appropriate on the beastie herself. Yeah, we're gonna have to peel this off this way. And the thing about a stencil is it doesn't have to be clean. That's what I kind of like about it. I mean, it's meant to be a quick and dirty stencil. So if you're using the stencil font and it has a run in the paint, or the paint isn't even, here you go, GNDN 739. And if nobody knows what a GNDN is, look it up. Okay, so lest you think I had forgotten about the pod today, I wanted to do one specific piece of work to it and then let it dry. And that is to run a bead of tulip along this bottom line here. It looks, what looks like white there is actually the gloss of the tulip, but it is covering a white seam that was on the inside of the window. So by building up that outside edge with a little bit of tulip and cleaning it off, that will cover up that white edge. I need to decide whether I want to try it on these sides, but they weren't nearly as obvious as the one along the bottom was. So we're treating that with kid gloves and letting that dry overnight. Well, good morning, cats and kittens. It's Tuesday and it's time to do some final wiring on this pod. Everything else I think that I need to do, I can do once it's up on its post, and that might even be healthier for it, because then it won't be down on the ground where I get bumped around. I have been doing a little touches of just patching the grays and the whites, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because I have to remember the precise mix, or else it ends up looking peculiar, and that's not good. These other colors that are straight colors, like this medium blue, is much easier to repair because it is the same color. It is not a mixture. So I'm just going around and touching up some stuff that well, needs touching up. And I have removed the masking from the side light here, so that will shine out in all its glory once I have restored power to it. I'm also going to do some touching up on these clamps on the docking ring. I think I'd like to make those a different color so that they would stand out a bit. I think I'm going to do a gunmetal on those, just to give them a little more zing than the flat black ring that surrounds it. And I've gone in and around these, particularly in some of the spots where the stripe is going down and over the dips in all this heavy plating, and I'm just going down in the center there and kind of cleaning up those fuzzy lines. Again, if I had one wish for this kit, it would be that these plates were about, a third as thick as they are. They would be so much easier to deal with. Okay, so the iron has had a chance to warm up, and that's not an easy task on these chilly mornings. It's gotten to be quite cold. So what I'd like to do is, let me see, I need to get the rest of my burning materials out of the way and get some solder and some soldering paste. I need to extend this one set of strobe wires so that I can bring everything down and work on it inside the base. Okay, so I've got the three main sets of wires, or only three sets of wires, fed down through the tube and coming out of the base. So I need to slap a little bit of glue on here, some nice slow setting epoxy, to glue this base together. And the reason I'm using epoxy and not CA is I don't want an instant bond. I want to be able to do some maneuvering and some positioning so that this is facing forward and all of that. So I need to whip up a little bit of the 5-minute epoxy and push those two gently together and let that sit before I start manhandling all the wiring that's coming out of the bottom. Alrighty, the wiring is in, and it may not be pretty, but it works. And as I've said many times before, that will probably be on my tombstone. He wasn't pretty, but he worked. Wiring to switch, wiring to Ralph's board, wiring coming out of the ground, and then a jumble where it all goes together. So let's stand it back up, plug it in, and show it off. Okay, we're standing it back up. We've got the transformer. If I can grab the other wire of it. It is plugged in. Let us plug it into the board. And we flip the switch. Well, it'd be more impressive if you were watching it with me. So let's do this. We do that, we flip the switch, and ba-boom. We have a travel pod. We have Mr. Scott and Mr. Kirk. Sorry, Captain Kirk to you. Admiral at this point. We have them in the pod. We've got the nice lighting coming up on them. I am simply taking an X-Acto and I am scratching off the strobes here where they got paint on them. Clean them up a little bit. It's easy enough to do this, but if I was really stuck, I could put a little bit of acetone on a Q-tip and just touch the edge of them and clean those right off. But there you go. There's the, well, you can't see them. Red lights on this side. And they're both blinking, yes, making sure that those are both working. Ooh, that got a little thin. That's a light leak now. Nuts! I sanded that down and I made a light leak. I'm going to have to fix that. But we have our red light here. We've got our inspection light. I should put this on the turntable. We have our front inspection lights with the nice louvers on them. We've got the strobe going on up top. Now, I was rightly pointed out that the strobe is on every single set of plans you'll ever see for this. They say there's a strobe there. In the motion picture, that strobe does not show. There, in the all of the 20 minutes, it seems like the trip between the space station and the dry dock that Scotty takes the long trip to Kirk on, that light never lights up. It never lights up, but it should. There should be a strobe light there, and the fact that the base, the post on the base is going straight up through where the bottom strobe would be, and the bottom strobe you see all kinds of evidence of that. But because I couldn't put it on this kit and still have the post going up where it should, I decided I'd go ahead and put the strobe on the top. And you're even seeing the light coming out of the back of the top of the door, which is nice. That's working much better than I was afraid it was going to. So at this point, there's nothing really left to do except add some tiny decals and you know, give it a good semi-gloss coat and call it a done thing. So I've gone through my crap box, and everybody should have a crap box. This is where I put all my scrap kit bash parts and decals that I don't use and photo etch that I don't use, and it all accumulates after a while, and then you can pull it out. Now, I built a long time ago, I built the inspection pod, the two-man pod that they also used in the dry dock sequence. I believe it was in Undiscovered Country, I'm not sure. But look at this, look what I found. Now there was no zeros, but there were a couple of fives. I really could have used those as decals. They are the exact right size. If I had found a zero to go with this, I would be punching myself right now. I will tell you, in all the touching up that I did, and I came back to this today, I realized that maybe I had covered up too much of that warm gray color. So I've got the medium gray here. I'm going to put some more of this back in the brush, and I'm going to actually reintroduce some of that just in these panels up front. Because I think that when I sprayed the white over top of them, I blended them back too much, and they aren't as prominent as they are in some of the shots of the model. One more thing, it occurred to me that I probably should hit this with a clear coat before I decal it, so that the decals will stick down better, and then I can put the decals down and then clear coat over it again. But I think, so the order it needs to be is touching up paint, clear coating, decaling, final coating. So I'll need to cover up this window so I don't get any clear coat on the glass. Okay, so I've added some of the warm grays back into these raised platings on both sides of the front, and I painted the latches the gunmetal color so that you give it a nice little bit of contrast there. And I think everything here is ready. As soon as this paint dries, I'll be able to mask off the front window and then hit this with a coat of satin. And then once that coat of satin is on, then I will be at liberty to put the decals on. So I'm just going to, actually no, I'm not going to use this stuff. I'm going to use my transfer tape because it is less adhesive and I can get it in one wide piece. Good morning, folks. It's Wednesday. We are one flat coat away from finishing the travel pod. The decals that I put on yesterday have had all night to dry or to settle in. So this morning I'm going to put a last flat coat over top of everything to seal those in. But I'm doing some final touches on the paint while I'm waiting for that to happen. And I'll let those dry. But you can see the myriad of tiny details that I put on there look kind of out of place and glossy. And they will until that is until the flat coat is sprayed on there. I just went in this morning. I was doing some work on the doors back here. I wanted to accentuate that the seam where they both meet, so I painted that in a darker gray. And see, this tape is covering those clear panels, and that I will take off after the flat coat has been sprayed. Did some touch up on these back red stripes, and I may continue to pick at this thing over the coming months, but for right now it is done. Now I think the last thing I want to do with the stand is I'm wondering whether I need to fill in the bottom of this. I think if I took a piece of plastic or Trovasil and put a base on that with my traditional black felt on it, I think I'll feel a lot better that they can't get into the electronics down underneath there. Plus it'll look better if it's sitting on a glass shelf if it has a finished bottom to it. So I am going to round up some materials for that, and then hit this thing with a flat coat of spray. Okay, the pod is all but finished. It just needs a flat coat. I have just put the base, the bottom on the base, and covered it with felt. And now I'm ready to take this outside and spray a flat coating on it. Okay, I'm continuing work on the base for the Facehugger, or the base hugger, depending on how you want to say it. Just took a piece of the big sticky felt, put it on the bottom. It doesn't have to come all the way out to the edges. It hides everything it needs to hide. It makes a nice glidey motion if you put it on a glass shelf. But I just painted the, oh, look at the crumbs it picks up. Yeah, table needs cleaning. But I just painted an edge around here so that you wouldn't see any bare wood. So we got that. We've got the piece of conduit here, which I'm still working on dressing up. And I gotta find which angle that's gonna rest at. And then we're gonna have Mr. FG, or FH. And I'm gonna use this clear column just to hold it up, to hold him up from bending over. I'm just afraid he's gonna start, that the resin is not strong enough, and he's just gonna start racking over to the side after time. So I will leave that on, and if I need to display him for any short periods of time, I can take that out. Just kind of kick it out and only use it when he's in long-term storage. I'm wondering whether or not I need to get a solid piece there rather than that empty tube. But that's looking good. And you can see the, well, let me turn that off. You can see the optical cable sparking there. I need to dress that up still some. I need to glop that up, dirty it up. But it's mostly there. I'm wondering what kind of other debris I need to put on that grating. Morning, people. It is Thursday, and as much as we finished up the travel pod yesterday, I think we're standing a very good chance of finishing up the Facehugger today, which means I might just take tomorrow off. Who knows? And then post my video. Then that'll leave next week to wrap up a couple quickie projects and get on to the next big 3D printed kit. So to work on the Facehugger for today, I want to finish aging up this conduit. And then I need to put the final touches on the hugger himself, and then decide about a final finish. And I'm thinking a glossy, just a clear gloss finish will be enough. I need to decide whether this base is beat up enough or whether I need to beat it up some more and weather it and age it and all that. I mean, it's fine that if this is on a space station or a terraformed world or a starship or a commercial hauler, then it can be a little bit more rusty and beat up than it is. And I just have to decide whether I want to throw some more trash on here and do that, or whether that's going to start pulling attention away from the actual subject. Because it's always a delicate balance for me. You want the base to complement the subject, obviously, but you don't want it to overwhelm it unless you're doing a full diorama where it should be as integrated as your subject, but this is not. This is just a representative base, so I need to make sure I am happy with everything before I button this one up. So let's move Clyde over to the side here. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that rhyme. And get back to work on this base. Oh, well, since I thought I was recording and I wasn't. So here's what I'm doing. I have taken some of these water effects from Woodland Scenics, and I've mixed it up with the slimy grime and the European mud and the oil staining, and I've just slopped it on the tail and on the base of this Facehugger model, and I'm wanting to get a nice slimy, ooky, and yes, ooky is the word, an ooky gloss gloppy effect to it, a slimy effect to it. I had hoped to do that simply with the high gloss spray, and I'm going to add that to it, I'm sure, but I want to see how this dries in. It occurred to me, though, when I was about halfway through it, that I should be taking the Dremel and maybe melting out or carving out some of this grid work to make it look like the acid had already started to eat into it. So I'm going to do that now, but because it's loud and messy, I'm going to turn the camera off. How well you can see that, but I've got the grid work kind of tore up where the slime has hit it, particularly on that front corner. Oh, there you go, something like that. So now I just need to put the slime over top of it. Yes, it may look disgusting, but it'll actually dry pretty clear. I've just been putting different layers of the water effects on there, just kind of building it up, letting it dry. It's drying very nice and clear, and then I go back over it with another layer to build up more areas. But this is giving me the nice slimy, greasy look that I was hoping for. It's just not giving me any long strands of goo, and I'm wondering if maybe I could put maybe some epoxy on here and let that dribble down and dry as a pool. I don't know. In the old days I would have used rubber cement, but that doesn't dry very well. It doesn't last long after it's dried. Actually, what you want to do is you want to coat it in latex. I might have some of that. I've got this mold builder latex. That might be worth a try. Just let that, yeah, it still smells like latex. That'll knock you out. I'm going to let this coat dry, and then I'm going to start, there it is right here. I'm going to let this coat dry, and then I'm going to start layering on the latex and see how that behaves. Back, cats and kittens. It is Friday. It is the last work day of the week, and it is the last day on the Facehugger. I've gotten to a point where I'm just adding coat upon coat of the water effects, and I actually went in this morning, before I flipped the camera on, with a treatment of the 1 minute epoxy, just to make some gloops and some drips and some things that will dry hard but look like liquid drops of clear goo, and that is that's what the clear epoxy gets you. And I was thinking of maybe tinting up a slimy version of the 15-minute epoxy, but the problem with that is it's 15-minute epoxy. It takes too long to set. What I want is something that will kind of drip and then freeze in place, and that's what the 1 minute epoxy will get you. Now I could mix up a bunch of the 15-minute epoxy and just leave it sit for a while, and then try to catch it just at that last bit before it goes off. But I don't know how risky of a temptation that would be to try. I think I might try that. I mean, worst I can do is fail. But with the 1 minute epoxy, I was able to basically epoxy him down to the stand, and then, or sit him on the stand, and then just drip the epoxy over it, and it locks into the base. And it's also got this conduit locked in place. I'll go ahead and flip the switch on that so you can see its shining glory. Well, you could if it were in fact on camera. Let me turn that off. Now you can see what's going on. But we're to a point of diminishing returns, really. I could continue doing this until I'm older and grayer, and it would look better each time I did it. It would look fresher and more glossy and more gloopy, but really you'd get almost to the point where the whole thing starts to get encased. So I'm going to call this a done thing, move it over to the side, and that's going to give me enough time today to squeeze in maybe a third project, a one-day project that will work at getting done, finished between this and the pod and the, I'll do this so you can see the whole thing here. Between the pod and this Facehugger, finishing early this week, it gave me time for a one-day project for today. And here is my one-day project for the rest of this week, and that is Bender and the ladies. I have printed these out earlier. I printed these out like last week, and I've got them on primed. Bender, I did put a coat of gloss Rust-Oleum gray on, and that's going to serve the basis for his arms and his legs, but I'm going to go with lighter colors on the rest of them. And the gals, I think, are going to be variations of pinks and oranges, and then we'll see how far those go. My primary interest is getting Bender finished today. Righty, I've broken down Bender's paint scheme into 3 basic shades of gray, and I made myself a key so that I wouldn't forget which one was 1 and which one was 2 and which one was 3. 3, I'm treating the color of the duplicolor. I'm sorry, it wasn't duplicolor. It was Rust-Oleum gloss gray, and that's the color of the arms and legs. I'm keeping this color. It also gives me, since it's dried overnight, it's given me something to hang on to and to hold it by while I'm painting. But there's going to be a secondary, the number 2 color is going to be basically the body and the head, and then the 3 color, or the lightest color, is going to be accents on the body, accents on the head, and then the feet and hands. So first thing I'm going to do is mix up my medium color, and that's going to be dark sea gray and royal light gray, a little bit of about 50-50 on that, and then the lightest color is going to be just straight royal light gray. Okay, it's coming up on lunchtime now, so I'm going to take a break and let these paints dry. I've been getting to the point where I'm painting over top of wet paint, and it never works well. So I've got all the colors roughed in. I will let them dry and then come back and touch them up, as these Tamiyas are temperamental when they when you try to ask them to do things they're just not meant to do. Okay, I may not have finished these today, but I am through with them for the week. It's getting late in the day, and I want to get this video up early tonight, so I will leave it here, and then I'll start next week's project fresh. And I may, if I work on these over the weekend, then I may pop them in for a guest appearance next week on the next week's video. But that's all I feel like I want to do today on them. So let's go get the travel pod and the Facehugger out, and we'll wrap up these 2 long-standing projects. Okay, I'll stand back far enough so that you can get everything in the same picture. Now, this is the pose that I have been using for the last few weeks on the intro card to show you the size of these 2 kits and to give you the impending chase, if you will, of the Facehugger over the travel pod. Let's turn the light off, the overhead light, and the compressor. Maybe we'll turn that off too. But let me flip the lights on here. Well, let me hold on for 1 second. There, I've darkened the room down a little bit so that we can get the full effect. But what happens when we turn the lights on. Ba-boom. And we have the strobe slash nav lights going. We have the inspection light. We flip around to this side. I don't have the turntable out, but now we can see the green strobe going on. But importantly, you can see the light on Scotty and Kirk inside there as they are doing their inspection duty. And you can see, let me pull the camera out so off the tripod there so that you can see the lighting going on inside there on both sides, going back to the back door, and then in the rear consoles you can see those lit up. But there you go, that is the final look at the travel pod. Let me turn it around so that you can see. Of course, you remember what horrible things happened to this wall, but we can see the overhead light here that shines down on the inner airlock doors. And I don't know how well you can make out the tiny decals. I stole those from a sheet left over from the 2001 pod where there were extra decals, but you can get the caution and a paragraph of text there. But I did end up touching up the stripes on the back because this angle here I needed to correct on both of those. But that is the travel pod in all its 3D printed glory. Move that to the side and pull out our old friend, the Facehugger. Again, this was a 3D printed kit. Completely different animal, no pun intended. And let me flip on the lighting in the circuit. There you go. But this is one of those things where it was all in the finish. It was between the gloss finish of the epoxy and the gloss finish of the water effects and the weathering effects and all of that. This was more of a painting exercise than anything else. It certainly wasn't that tough of a build, but and there we have the GNDN. Again, if you don't know what that is, look it up. Hit the light back on here. Oh no, it's too bright. You get the nice moody facehuggery, spidery looking thing going on here. Life size. I like doing life size props. I would imagine that is, it certainly is the size of a head, so that would be life size. But there you go. Not something you'd want to meet in a dark alley, I'll tell you that. And my friends, this is going to bring to an end, finally, good Lord, finally, an end to this 4-week experiment into resin 3D resin printed model making. I come away with it the same opinion that I had going in, really, that this is not a one-stop solution. This is not a magic bullet, at least not yet. This is, if anything, a throwback to the old days of the first garage kit building, resin cast models, which, you know, over the last 20 years have gone from pretty remedial down to, you know, downright gorgeous, beautiful work. I've seen resin cast kits that are, you know, head and shoulders above styrene kits, and that doesn't happen overnight. And I think 3D printing, while it's got a bit of a leg up, I think we'll get there in probably about a half the time that it's taken resin kits or resin cast kits to get there. It's all going to come down really to the skill and knowledge and engineering acumen of the file makers, because just as I've proven with the 3D printing, if you get a bad file, there's not a lot you can do with it. Now it's incumbent on me now to pick up some software, learn how to do that. If I want to stop whining about the quality of a resin cast part, well then I need to learn how to do something about it. Just like when we were having cast garage kits, that if they had too many bubbles in it, or if they had too many inaccuracies in it, it was up to us to learn how to scratch build and to improve and to sand and to file and to do all that kind of stuff to make it better. Well, we're in that same boat these days with 3D printing. It's up to you to learn how to make it better. If it's not up to your standards when you get it, it's up to you to learn how to make it better. And I think we'll find, just as there are certain names in the cast resin kit world that we know, if it's a fill in the blank named kit, then it's going to be of a certain quality. You can learn to expect that. And I think that's going to happen with the STL files, or the 3D printed files. When such and such fill in the blank puts out a file, you'll know that it's good and ready to go and fun to print. And if so and so puts out a file, then you avoid it like the plague. So that's where I think we are right now. I don't think it is ready for prime time to just sit down, put a 3D kit, pull it out of the printer and then start building. I may not have run into those kits yet. I'm working on one, or that will be next week, that is certainly on much further down the road to being an excellent kit than this travel pod. And it's all down to the skill of the person who has created the file. Not only do you have to know how to design the thing, make it look like the thing, but you also need to know how to break that down so that somebody else can put those parts back together and make a good finished kit. And those skills will develop. People will learn people will start demanding that. I know I demand it. And I think the people who are making these files will learn to recognize that they need to sharpen up maybe their skill sets on how something is engineered. So that's my short letter grade is no. I don't think it's ready to come right off the printer and slap it on the turntable and paint it and you're done. There is work to be done, and luckily we're here to do it. I mean, it's the golden age of modeling. I've been saying that for the last 10 years, and I'm going to say it until it stops being true. We're in a golden age of kits. If you ever thought that you would ever see a travel pod kit in your lifetime, you were one of the lucky ones, because I never thought I would see a travel pod kit. I would love to see Jamie at round 2. Jamie, if you're watching, this is a perfect scale size. I would love to see you reproduce this as a garage kit, not a garage kit, as an actual kit in styrene. I will be happy to send this to you if you want to study it. And you would, at this size, it's beautiful for putting lights in, beautiful for putting figures in. But if the alternative is not having a travel pod kit, this is certainly better than nothing. And I think that is where the future of the 3D printed kit is going to be. The kit I'm going to start working on next week is the Razor Crest. No secret, I'll tell you, it's the Razor Crest. I've been printing out parts for the last couple of weeks for it. Now, it's a Star Wars kit from an insanely popular show right now. Whoever has the Star Wars license currently in the United States, I don't know, doesn't matter. Bandai, who cares? They're eventually, they'd be shooting themselves in the head to not put out a Razor Crest kit. So seeing a Razor Crest kit now, right now the only advantage of it is it's available now. If you wait 6 months to a year, who knows? Somebody might put out a commercially produced kit of that. But I want it now. I could download it now. I can print it now. It's good enough for now. Facehugger kit. Now I know Halcyon made a Facehugger kit, but if I wanted to scale it up or down or make it whatever size, then you go to the 3D printed route. It's going to open up a wide open field of kits that you never thought you would ever see produced. I got a freaking Tweaky that's this tall. They're never gonna make a Tweaky kit. Come on. You know, your most ardent Buck Rogers fan has got to admit there's never gonna be a Tweaky kit. So downloading it, printing it is the next best thing. Wood. This is the wild speculation. This is just blue skying. Would the people who own the rights to Buck Rogers, I don't know whoever owns that Universal license right now, would they ever consider not making a kit but licensing an STL file? Well, I could see that being the future of modeling, where whoever it is, Monogram, AMT, Round 2, whoever, says, okay, we're going to release this Tweaky kit. And it's going to be well engineered so that you can print the pieces off and they will match and they will fit together. And then you can, if there's a decal sheet, you can download the decal sheet and print it yourself. That's like the last missing piece of this. I had to paint these lines on the pod because there was no decal sheet. I could see them doing that if they can find a way that works in their business model, that you know, you get 5 tries at printing this and then the file self-destructs, or it's only good for 6 months or something like that. I could see doing that with an expiration on, because you know they don't want to give away the store. I can understand that. They need to make some money. But if they put out an STL file at a reasonable price and then they don't have to produce the model, hey, you know, it's cheaper for them. But I'm off topic. So next week we will be on the Razor Crest. We will, I think I may even try to light it. We'll find that out next time. So until next week, be good, be safe, go out and vote. You still have time. Be safe, take care of each other. We'll see you here next time. Avoid face hugging. If your face hugger comes at you, make sure he's wearing a mask. And we'll see you here next time.